Senator King.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, I don't envy you today because you've been sent up here to defend the indefensible. This budget is perhaps the worst budget for any agency that I've seen in 12 years in public life in terms of corresponding to national priorities. It's amazing. You made a statement in your opening statement when you first appeared before this committee in your confirmation hearing. You said, when it comes to climate change, I'm committed to making decisions based on sound science that also take into account the economic impact. This is not a sound science budget, Mr. Secretary. This is a non-science budget. You're cutting the very areas where the science, which we need to make good policy decisions, is going to be examined. Earlier today, you said the U.S., this is a direct quote, the U.S. is the leader in clean energy technology, and we are committed to this mission. The budget doesn't say that. ARPA-E, 93%, essentially eliminated. You're even cutting the Energy Information Agency 3.5%, which just provides information about our country's energy situation. Energy efficiency, 69.6% cut. Office of Science, 17%. Those are the national labs. And by the way, there are 56,000 people that work for the national labs. The budget, I am quite confident, is largely personnel. So a 17% cut in a 56,000 person agency is about 9,500 people. Now, probably there are other areas that can be cut. But to come here and try to tell us that you're about sound science when you're cutting the very departments, the very portions of your essential agency that are going to give us the science, it doesn't pass the straight face test, Mr. Secretary. I like you. You and I were governors together, but I think you've been sent on a suicide mission here, and I want you to go back and tell the people that are pushing you to do this, I can't do it. It's not responsible. You can find a question in there. You're welcome to it.
I was looking for it, sir.
Well, I want to know, how do you justify these giant cuts? And don't tell me about reorganization. You can't cut something by 69% and say you're going to find efficiencies.
Governor, here's what I would tell you, is that if we're going to continue to do everything like we've always done it, then we're going to probably continue to get the same result. I hope what I can tell you is that I understand this budgeting process. I respect it. And I bring a rather substantial management history of running big things and doing them in a fairly substantial way. Sometimes we had the money that most agency heads thought that we needed. Sometimes we didn't. But I hope that we can agree that this is a good starting point.
No, it's not a good starting point. It's a terrible starting point.
Well,
if you want to make it more efficient, let's say 4 or 5%. 69.6% is not a good starting point. I meet you in the middle, and it's still not adequate.
Well, then we'll work together to try to get it to be adequate, Senator, is about the only answer I know to give you.
Well, let me go to the other one that just is, it's awful, is electricity delivery and energy reliability, 47.8% cut. Are you aware that our grid is incredibly vulnerable right now to
probably is more so than most people.
Well, then how in the world can you allow people to say you're going to cut the department that works on energy reliability and delivery, that's the grid, by almost 50%?
Senator, again, I go back to if we get some flexibility in our budgeting, I feel pretty comfortable we'll be able to protect the grid, because that's not the only place that we're doing any grid work. I mean, by a substantial margin. There are substantial places in our national labs, whether it's INL and other places where we're doing work to protect the grid. And
that's a national security concern, and I want to follow up with you on that. And if there are other places, and if you can move money around, but cutting money for the reliability of the grid right now is a national security threat. It is I serve on other committees around here that deal with this issue. It is a serious national security threat. I guess that you have pointed out, you've said several times, there's a process, and you understand Congress, the President proposes, Congress disposes. Here's the question, though. If and when, and I believe it's only a question of when, Congress restores a lot of these funds, will you administer them as intended by Congress, and will you staff adequately to meet those needs? Will you administer and implement the budget that Congress passes?
To the best of my ability, I'm going to follow the rule of law, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.